Well, welcome everyone. I want to say thank you for joining us for Sound Exchange 101, sponsored by Sound Exchange. My name is Cindy Cogdill. My pronouns are she and her. And by way of visual description, I am a female with brown hair, brown eyes, fair skin. I'm wearing a tan and white striped dress today while I'm sitting in my home office that's adorned by windows and thankfully lots of sunshine today. I am the programming and community director at Folk Alliance International. I have to tell you, I enjoy our webinars so much. I'm really looking forward to everything you're going to get out of this one today. I've already previewed it. It looks fantastic. You have a wonderful speaker. But before we begin today's session, we always like to take a moment to note that we are joined today by folks from around the globe and to collectively recognize the importance and the complexity of offering a land acknowledgement in the context of a virtual and online setting. So I'm joining you from the indigenous land of the Osage, Kanza, Kaw, Kickapoo, and Osheti-Sakowin nations, also known as Kansas City. We invite you to not only join in acknowledging our shared responsibility towards reconciliation, but to commit to taking personal, meaningful, and measurable actions towards the healing of the legacies of colonization, forced migration, and cultural erasure. If you'd like to learn more about the Indigenous legacy of the land that you're on, we'll be posting a link in the chat here to assist you with that. It's extremely important to take time before we begin any space in the Folk Alliance world that we take time to do land acknowledgement and to also introduce ourselves to you. We're so grateful for you for being part of our community. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our presenter today, Mr. Marc Rucker.
Here we go. All right, now we're off to the races. Like I said, or like she said, my name is Marc Rucker. I'm at SoundExchange. I'm on the Artist Industry Relations team. If you guys have been to Folk Alliance, I've been the last couple of years and been able to speak on some panels. So if we've crossed paths, hello again. If not, it's nice to meet you. But I just wanted to kind of start us off and get us all on the same page as to where SoundExchange is and what do we do and how do we do it. And just to give you guys a little bit of an overview, here's some facts about SoundExchange. So SoundExchange started in 2003 by an act of Congress to collect and distribute the digital performance license. Since then, we've distributed over $11 billion, which is, to my estimate, a lot of money, which is great. And that goes to creators and rights owners. More than 1 billion last year alone, and the year before that. So the last couple of years, we've distributed over $1 billion to creators, which I kind of see it as a growing pool, which is a really nice thing to see. Over 650,000 creators served worldwide and growing every single month. We have 3,600 digital streaming providers that pay into our royalties in the digital performance side, and I'll kind of explain how that works and who pays and who doesn't. And then we have partnerships all over the world that we collect from, and we collect international royalties that allows a little bit ease on your guys' end, so you're not having to sign up at multiple different places and claim in different areas and that type of thing. But I'll kind of run through all that, but that kind of gives you a base layer as to where SoundExchange is. And so next I want to kind of talk about what is a copyright. This is, kind of the boring stuff, but it gives us a good starting point for everybody so that we're all on the same page as to, what does SoundExchange do and how is it different than a BMI or an ASCAP or something like that you may have heard of. So what is a copyright? With every song, every recorded song, there are two copyrights that end up existing. You have the underlying music, which are the notes and the lyrics. So the songwriter and the publisher. On the sound recording side, you have the performing artists, the musicians, the studio, the master owner on that side. So there's two different sides, right? And so we kind of break this down into what we call one of the easiest, best use cases is that the song Respect by Aretha Franklin, made famous by her, but it was written by Otis Redding. So the musical composition side would be on Otis Redding, the songwriter and publisher side. And on the other side, the sound recording side, your performing artist is Aretha Franklin and the rights owner would be her record label at that point. So those are two distinct sides. And this is how it breaks down as far as who administers those performance rights. So the musical composition side, the songwriter, the publisher, you would be looking at ASCAP, CSAC, BMI, GMR. And on the sound recording side, you would be looking at SoundExchange. And so who do they pay? Songwriter and publisher, as far as the left side with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. And then on the right side, SoundExchange. We pay the featured artist on recordings, and then we also pay the rights owner on those recordings. So where do those sources of income come from? SoundExchange is very specific to this really interesting world that I think is interesting. We are specific to non-interactive digital radio. And essentially what that means is satellite radio, internet radio, cable TV radio. And this is very specific because, and I'll talk about this later, but the US doesn't really do anything with FM radio royalties yet. But I'll talk about this in our advocacy portion. But at this point, SoundExchange collects and distributes royalties from Music Choice, SiriusXM Radio, Pandora Radio, iHeartRadio, if it's streamed over the internet and not in your car. Like I said, it's very distinct. Where it's not available is YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud. And so the very key difference is the interactive versus non-interactive. Interactive meaning you can select the next song, you can change the artist, you can skip to the next one. Non-interactive meaning you're not selecting, you're just changing the radio station. So like I said, SiriusXM is a really common example, and one of our biggest partners. Next, I kind of want to show you guys, okay, so once we get these royalties coming in, how does it split out? And so how it works is, if you look at the right side here, you see it says sound recording to royalties collected, and then direct to the artist and the copyright holder. That's the simple version, and that's how it works. And I love it for that. After being in music for so long, there's not many things that do it direct that way, but yeah, the split for SoundExchange, if you look at it 100% pie down here at the bottom right, you see it as 50% on the sound recording copyright master owner side, 45% to the direct featured artist, and then 5% to the non-featured SAG-AFTRA AFM fund. That's a government mandated number that we have to do. I do want to highlight here that if you own your own masters as an artist, you keep up to 95% of the money that you're earning, which, like I said, after being in music for a long time, there's not many things that really reward you in that way. And so SoundExchange for me is near and dear to my heart, and I'm happy to be here for it. So now you guys have a little bit of an idea as to, how do we work? What do we work on? Who do we pay? How much we pay? And you kind of have that as a background. I want to talk a little bit about online registration and give you guys a little bit of a background on what that looks like, so it's not so foreign to you whenever you log in for the first time. So online registration is really quick and easy. It's, you go to our website, soundexchange.com, or you can go to register.soundexchange.com, and you'll see this page pop up, and you'll click register. And once you click register, you'll be able to see this page that pops up. And so once this pops up, this gives you an idea as to what you should know before you start to register at SoundExchange. On the left side, this will be the first pop-up that comes up. And this is one of now my new favorite things that come up, because I always get asked, what do you need to register? And now we have a page that tells you that. So before you even get started, it'll tell you need a government issued ID, information about the performer or performers. Should you be registering yourself or someone else? Payment delivery information, whether it's a voided check for direct deposit or an address, or we even use the Cash App now for payments, which is really helpful for a lot of people. And then also tax information, your W-9s and that type of stuff, just to make sure that you're getting your taxes taken care of on the front end as opposed to dealing with them on the back end. And then down here at the bottom, it lists what you can expect. A couple of notes here is you can view how far away you are from finishing, which it shouldn't take more than 15 or 20 minutes should you have all the information you need. But you can also exit the registration at any point and come back to it. SoundExchange will send you a link to the email that you signed up with, so you can start back up at where you've left off, should you have to stop and go, oh, I need to go look for that information or something like that. So the great news is you can get started and at least get to a good stopping point and then go from there. On the right side, I wanted to kind of show you a little bit of what the general information side would look like and kind of how it's set up. So the first question you'll get is, who are you registering? And so it kind of asks, what kind of registration will you need? And the reason we ask that is are you registering yourself, or are you registering on behalf of someone else? So sometimes an artist manager or an attorney or a business manager, or even if you look further down, an estate or an heir of a deceased performer can register and get set up. And so it's really helpful for us to know which one you're doing from the get-go, and it helps change the registration setup process as you're going. And so once you get through this part, you'll get to the point where it talks about you've submitted your registration. And once we get past that, I want to talk a little bit about membership and international collection as a part of this. So membership and an international collection is something that SoundExchange is really proud of. We've been doing this for 20 years, and I'll talk through the process of that. But this is really, once you get registered, you'll see this page that says success, your registration has been submitted. And then the very next thing will be now become a SoundExchange member. And essentially what a member means is that you've signed the agreement for SoundExchange to represent you, not just in the United States, which is what you would do if you just registered, but also around the world. So if you have, airplay in Norway and Sweden and France and all these different places, it's really, we make it a lot easier than you having to go sign up at every single one of those to make sure that you're collecting all the royalties that you're earning. So the main important part here is to know that in order to make sure that your royalties are being collected internationally, you do need to sign up as a member, and you do need to sign the membership mandate, which allows us to reach out to those organizations in those countries and let them know that we're collecting on your behalf. And you can do that direct from your registration. You can also do it later on, which I'll show you a little bit later within SX Direct as we're going. Real quick about the international side. We do have 65 agreements around the world. They're covering 88% of the global neighboring rights market. It's a very significant service, and over 470,000 creators use it. It makes your life a lot easier in a lot of ways. It's also one of the lowest admin rates in the world. I think it's below 5%, which is extremely low in this world that we work in. And we have over 20 years of experience doing this, and you'll see it in your statements as far as international and all these different ways that the royalties are being collected. And for anybody that has had experience internationally, it's not always as cut and dry when you're talking about currencies and taxes and all types of different things. So we kind of take care of all that for you. And that's why a lot of artists have chosen our international collection to be able to do that. So yeah, I just wanted to talk through that. And then the next step, once you get registered and you kind of go through this whole process, you'll get an email login it would be your email, but you'll get a login for SX Direct. SX Direct is our 24/7 self-service portal. This is the place where you'll log in and you'll be able to look into your back end of your account and see your prior statements. You can update your account information. You can add guests if you have a manager or a business manager that you'd like to have on your account, or a family member that's helping you track all this. And then also some of the main points is you have access to my catalog, where you can submit recordings. You can see overlaps and disputes if there are any, and you can use search and claim, which these are the main tools that I wanted to kind of showcase for you guys and give you guys a little bit more background on, so that again, once you kind of get in there and you get registered, you'll have a better idea so you can see it. And so the first thing is, as soon as you jump into your account, you'll see a homepage and it'll say associated recordings. And so your associated recordings are the ones that are linked to your account for payment. When you just start with SoundExchange, more than likely you won't have any, but this is where you would use a search and claim tool to use it. But sometimes if it's an artist that's had a good amount of airplay or something like that, SoundExchange has done a good job of creating accounts for you guys on the back end, so that once you get registered, it's already there. So sometimes it can have a few there and sometimes it won't. But the next big part, like I said, in using my catalog and the SX Direct feature, is called search and claim. So search and claim is what I think of the holy grail as what SoundExchange does at this point for a lot of artists. is it's the SoundExchange database for you to be able to search recordings that should be linked to your account for payment. So when you release music, sometimes you'll get airplay and you won't even know about it. And that's where, whenever that happens, those digital service providers like a SiriusXM, they have to notify us of their playlisting. And so they'll submit a certain amount of data to us, the artist name, the title, the ISRCs, that type of thing. And it'll go into this database that we can use called Search and Claim, where you can basically jump into your account, log in as your artist name, and you can search by title, artist, ISRC, album, and anything that comes up in your search means it is currently unclaimed. So I'll repeat that. Anything that comes up in your search means it's currently unclaimed. So it's important to make sure that you use this tool, especially if you're actively releasing music, or even I've seen more recently a lot of live tracks are kind of left like unclaimed. I don't know if people just think that I shouldn't have to claim those, or I don't need to at the moment. But it's always good. I recommend at least once a quarter or once every 6 months to just jump in there, especially as an artist, to search your name just to make sure that you're collecting on everything, because you really never know, the types of amounts of royalties that are being used or being accumulated without making sure that it's associated to your account. So like I said, one of the main points here would be use the search and claim tool. It's really helpful. The next thing is for anybody that's in bands or works with bands, we've instilled this new tool called performance-based claiming. Essentially, it allows you to create lineups for certain claims based off of years or albums or anything that you'd like. And so this is immediately following the search and claim tool. You would see this screen on the left, where it would essentially ask you, if you have lineups, if you were in a band that had 5 members and now you only have 4, you don't want to pay that 5th member for work that they're not doing anymore, or you want to make sure that the next member, if you add somebody else in, would get compensated for their work, but not the person before. So it's a way to create lineups so that you can actually make sure that each band member is receiving the amount of royalties that they should be based off of the work that they've done. And so this is a really easy thing to do. You would just go in there and create a new lineup based off of again, like I said, a time or an album cycle or something like that for yourselves. The next part would be, if you are an artist and you are currently on a label or something like that, where you have you're not the master owner of your own recordings, but eventually maybe you will be, you can create a rights owner entity within SoundExchange without having to re-register. So like I said, we pay both the artist side and the rights owner side. And sometimes artists own their own masters, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they revert back to them over time, or they end up signing a deal and then deciding to want to be independent after that point. So this is a way for you to basically do this without having to re-register. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a part where it says create a new RO. This will be in the search and claim feature. And then these 2 questions will pop up. You want to add a new rights owner. Is it an individual or a company? And then obviously you'll be asked about international collection. And like I said, that's one of the things that we try to make as easy as possible for you guys, is to make sure it's as straightforward and as least complex as possible. So yeah, and then the next part would be search and claim for rights owners. This is a little bit different because you need a little bit more information as a rights owner, because it can change. Rights owners can change, masters owners can change. The fortunate thing on the artist side is that doesn't change. Once a sound recording is out, it is out under that artist, right? So one of the features of the search and claim side on rights owners is you would essentially do the same thing. You would use the album title or track titles or artists or ISRCs, and you would see them come up. And then the bottom part of the screen is where you would insert in your claims. And so sometimes, depending on your deals or your timing or timelines or those types of things, you might own 50% of a master. You might own 33%. You might own 100%, but only under certain dates and a certain date range. And so we have it in here for under inception to perpetuity. You can also change that where there's different dates. You can actually, this is mainly because we do have catalog sales and those types of things that happen. And then speaking of like catalog sales or anything large, there is a bulk claim feature so that if you do work with an artist or a rights owner that has hundreds or thousands of claims, you can use the bulk claim feature, which will make that process a lot easier for you guys, as opposed to maybe an album or two or a few are totally easy within this system. But if you have, like I said, a couple thousand, it gets pretty pretty overwhelming. Another feature specific to the rights owner side would be to submit a recording. So again, most of our recordings that we get reported on are from our service providers. They are required to send us a certain amount of information on their playlisting, and that's how we know that a song was played. And within that, they have to give us at least the title and the album and the artist name. But some of them will give us, the ISRC codes, the UPCs, the release label, the release date, the release country, those types of things. But if for some reason they don't, you can actually update that information within submit a recording, and you can also submit a recording should you need to for like a new album that's coming out. You can submit it ahead of time, and then it'll match that much quicker within our system once one of our service providers pays it. So we always ask rights owners, please jump in and put in any metadata that you have. The more that we have, the better it'll be, and the more likely it'll get to you as quickly and as efficient as possible. So again, this is on the rights owner side, so it's important to know that if you're just the artist out there, your label will be doing this on your behalf. But if not, if you're doing this on your behalf, it's important for you to do that, because it's an easy way to make sure that you're kind of dotting all of your I's and crossing your T's. A couple of last parts on the SX Direct. So another part of the rights owner side are these features called overlaps and disputes. Essentially, what it means is that if you and someone else are claiming as a rights owner more than 100% of a track, that one of you, it'll go in an overlap because one of you is either mistaken or wrong, or you guys haven't agreed on yet. You guys need to figure out how that works. So if you look at the screen here, the one that you're looking at, both sides are claiming 100%. So you can't have 200% of a song. So if you look at rights owner one, it lists a couple of actions required, and one is relinquish, where you would say, oh, I made a mistake, that was my bad, I didn't mean for that. Or maintain, as in, no, I know my side is correct. Or you can edit and change the percentage if you know it's a different percentage. And then it would kick to the rights owner two to basically do the same thing. If the rights owner one relinquishes, then no harm, no foul, no problem. If they maintain it, then it would go to rights owner two to say, hey, they've maintained their claim on this. Can you make sure that yours is correct? And if you guys need to edit your percentages, then just edit them. Most of the time, I would say, you have a 30-day period where most of the time this goes over really quickly and it's not a big deal. And most of the time these are done by mistake. So it usually doesn't get to any dispute level. But if it does, what would happen is that we would basically let both parties know, hey, you guys have both not relinquished your claims. It's still over 100%. The song's gonna go on hold for now, and it's on you two to work it out. And we would put you guys in touch with each other, or at least make sure that you guys had contacts for each other, so that you guys could work out, who does own this, and it can go forward from there. But like I said, 99% of these end up being a mistake on a number or a percentage or a date, and it usually gets worked out pretty quickly. So that's kind of the last thing on the rights owner side. And then I did want to kind of highlight what I mentioned before about guest access. So with many artists and many managers and business managers, which is the fields that I come from, some artists are really like, I want to have my own login, but I'll give you guest access, and that's really helpful. So you can actually look at their accounts and make sure that their payments are going through. You can look at the statements, that type of thing, and that's specific to view only. If you look at the middle of the screen, it says view with repertoire. That actually gives you the ability to update the account, to change the address, to use the search and claim feature on their behalf. So if you know that your artist might not want to jump in and do that as much, um, then then you can do that on their behalf there. And then also, again, like I said, from the management or business manager world, or even attorney, that type of thing, if you're working with a lot of artists in this field, if they invite you via the same email, you will see multiple artists on your login, so you don't have to have multiple logins. A lot of management teams really appreciate that, and they use it really frequently, and it's really helpful. So definitely use the guest access feature if you have somebody that you're working with and can be helpful on this. And then one last thing on membership, you can see your membership within the homepage. So if you look down at the middle of the screen, it says fully enrolled and the membership status. If you select that, you can look at what your membership status is and your mandate. And sometimes, certain people want to have these US only. Sometimes it's worldwide. Sometimes, you can take certain markets out if you have certain agreements in certain countries. But again, we try to make this as easy and as quick as possible for artists to make sure that they're receiving all the royalties that they're earning around the world, not just here in the United States. Next part, I would love to talk to you guys about advocacy. So now that you guys kind of have an idea about what SoundExchange is as a service, what it looks like, and hopefully the ease of it. I hope I haven't talked your ear off on that, but I do want to talk about advocacy. And this is, coming from someone from the national music business. And I didn't really have any exposure to the advocacy world until I got to SoundExchange. But SoundExchange is based in Washington, D.C. It's just a few blocks from the White House, essentially based on the Hill. So it's been a really important thing for us to be involved in the conversations around, copyright royalty board and those types of things. So I'm going to walk through that with you guys just so you can get an idea of that. One of the main things that we are championing through the last, several years, if not longer, but is what we call the American Music Fairness Act. And it's essentially creates a sound recording performance right for terrestrial radio. As I mentioned before, to what SoundExchange currently does is it's very specific to non-interactive digital radio. But all around the world, every other democratic nation in the world outside of the United States has the sound recording performance right for artists. So, if you talk to an artist in France or Denmark or the UK or even in China or Russia, they receive a royalty for this. But in the United States, Cuba, Iran, and North Korea, they do not pay this royalty. So it's been a long oversight. And I was just talking to folks before about this. We were just in DC at the end of June with Randy Travis, who spoke on behalf of all creators about this. And this is something that went all the way back to the 80s when Frank Sinatra visited Congress for the first time to talk about this royalty. So it's a long time coming, but it does protect small and non-commercial stations. It almost exempts them from having to pay anything to artists for this and rights owners for this. It also protects songwriters and publishers, so it doesn't really take anything from them either. So at the end of the day, it's really an important piece. And then, like I said, all around the world, countries do pay this royalty, but because in the US we don't, any American artist that gets played in those countries like France or, Croatia or wherever, they do not pay the American artists. So they actually end up holding those royalties, and they put it into like the French Cultural Fund. And I don't mean to pick on France, it just happens to come to mind. But it's one of those things where we do support national treatment for our creators, that we believe that creators should not be treated any differently just because of their nationality. But at the end of the day, we really think that AMFA will push through hundreds of millions of dollars a year to artists, and especially American artists. And so it's been really important for us to highlight that. As I mentioned, the Copyright Royalty Board, so SoundExchange represents the recording industry on all these everything digital streaming royalty rates, from satellite radio royalties up 700%, subscription royalties up 200%, non-subscription royalties up another 215%. So we've been really active in that and making sure that people know that we're here on behalf of creators and artists. And we also advocate for, our laws in court, and we really support making sure that, you know, audits are made, and even to the point that if we do have to sue some of our partners, which we have in the past, for unpaid royalties, we will do that. And so that's been really cool to watch as a company, and as somebody that works here, I'm really proud of that. And you know, I think representing creators in that way is something that is lost on some people. So I'm glad that we're doing it. And then final part on advocacy, and just because everybody wants to talk about it, you know, artificial intelligence is a really big conversation in music right now. And you know, there are some things to be fearful of, and there are some things that can be great about it. But at the end of the day, you know, we really we are a founding member of the Human Artistry Campaign, you know, with the RIAA and the SAG-AFTRA Guild, and even the NFL Players Association is a part of this. So at the end of the day, you know, it's only humans are capable of, you know, making music and making art and making it copyrightable. And so we've been really adamant about that. And then one final thing I did want to mention is that we always say it's about the 3 C's: the consent, credit, and compensation for creators. And so what do we mean by that is that if somebody wants to use, you know, your voice or your image or your, you know, your brand on your behalf, then you need to get consent from that artist. You need to credit that artist, and you need to compensate them. And that's kind of the simple framework that we've been running with, and it's been getting a lot of traction with our congressional leaders and talking with them about how important this is and why it matters. And so I hope that you guys know that we are there and actively pushing this, the legislation to protect creators. And I hope that you guys will do the same when you get the chance. Few final slides here. We have some partnership offers. So at SoundExchange, obviously, we represent a huge swath of artists and rights owners and producers and all types of different creators. And so we've had a lot of organizations reach out to us and hope that they can work with us and we can find the best deals for you guys. And so one thing I did want to highlight was just some of our partnership offers that you can find on our website and through your registration. Some of the main ones, so offer savings and, you know, products and hopefully useful services that you guys would use and need. But BeatBread is one of the ones that we've been using for royalty advances, which basically they would work with us to kind of see your royalties in previous, and if you want, you know, a certain amount of money ahead of time to help, you know, provide for, you know, an album release or a music video or travel or anything like that, they can help you with that. Music Pro, a musician specific insurance. I mean, I don't know how many, if you've toured at all, you know, something's going to break. And so it's always good to make sure you're protected in those ways. And then obviously, you know, theft and those types of things. It's really important to make sure you've got the right insurance for touring and getting out there and being a part of everything. Bandzoogle, websites and online commerce. So you know, obviously helping you with websites and that type of thing. And then Lander, mastering and recording tools. This is one of our newer ones that, you know, we've been hoping that people will try to use and see if they like it. But you can check out our partnership page on soundexchange.com and go from there. And then one last slide is I just want to make sure you guys know that we do have an app, the SoundExchange app. You can find it in the App Store and on Google Play. From there, you can look at your statements. You can you know, check your you can email yourself those statements. You can change you know, your address and those types of things. You can do a lot of the same features, but it's really helpful to you know, on the go should you need something. Obviously even contacting us or accessing certain things, it's really helpful. So that's I hope that's something you guys will check out. And then, yeah, final slide. I've been talking so much, I haven't even been able to look at the chat, but I hope that if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in here, or if you need to, you know, reach out later, you can always reach out to me at any point. Also, if you scan the QR code, it's a how-to like quick guide, basically a lot of the stuff that I went through. And so, you know, hopefully it's helpful. And then, you know, it's got some, I think it's some links to our YouTube, which kind of shows everything and, you know, gives you another refresher should you, you know, leave this and come back to it later. So, so yeah, I hope you guys will check out the QR code and hopefully that brings some help to you guys as well. Oh, here's the chat. Let me look. Oh, let's go. Okay, Alex. Yeah, American Music Fairness Act. Let's go. um, Yeah, so can you share more about international collection? Is it an opt-in slash opt-out feature? Yes, it is. So you can opt in or opt out at any point. You can also take out specific territories. So say you want to just, if you just wanted us to just US, you could do that. If you want us to do certain markets in Europe or all of Europe, but maybe you want to do a specific deal with like PPL in the UK. And so you can sign up directly with PPL to just do the UK, and then we can do the rest of the world, including the US. But yes, it is an opt-in, opt-out, so you can add it later at any point. You can also remove it later if you'd like as well. So there are opportunities with that to make it a little bit easier. Um, okay. Oh, thank you, Kat. Yeah, SoundExchange has grown a lot. I'm supposed to be looking at the Q&A, but thank you guys so much for the advocacy and all that. I will say one thing I just learned through this whole process, again, I just went through this with Randy Travis for the last like 8 months, was the preparation of that and building that out, is that congressional leaders will listen and they will be a part of the conversation. They were really excited that Randy would make it to DC and be a part of the conversation. But a lot of the representatives that came were really excited just to meet some of the musicians that they were just like, I didn't realize that it was like that, or I didn't think it would be that difficult, that type of thing. So it's always good if you guys have reps that you could reach out to, feel free to reach out to and let them know that you do support AMFA and you hope that they will too, because it is an important piece. So let me find this Q&A and go from there. Oh, well, there's my screen. Hang on a second. Let me find this Q&A. Hey, Fawn, how would I find the Q&A from here?
Here, I can just
Oh, yeah. If
read
you
off
don't
some
mind reading them, that'd
questions.
be helpful.
Yeah, so Deirdre McCullough asks, also, hey, good to see you here. I get some SoundCloud payments from CD Baby and some from SoundCloud. How can I make them all come from SoundCloud?
So SoundCloud is actually a different service, right? So the SoundCloud, I guess maybe you met SoundExchange payments through CD Baby. The reason I say that is because CD Baby, if the certain distributors will collect the rights owner portion of your royalties on your behalf if you ask them to. So when you use a certain distributor like a CD Baby or DistroKid or something like that, they actually do have access where they can claim that royalty on your behalf, the rights owner side, but they can't claim the featured artist portion, just to note that. So the way that I look at this, though, I will say that it really depends on how you want to run your business. You're essentially allowing them a higher percentage to take from what you're earning, because you could do it direct yourself and just sign up as a rights owner on SoundExchange, or you can have your distributor do it on your behalf. So it's really on how you want to run it. But like I said, they'll probably take an extra 10 to 15% off of whatever you're making. So like I said, I think that would be the main point I'd like to highlight there.
Okay, Alan, and yeah, you were right. She said that, yeah, she meant SoundExchange.
Nice.
Alan asks, we work in Spain and sometimes elsewhere, as well as US. My wife and musical partner is Spanish. Some of our compositions are registered with SGAE in Spain. Does the SoundExchange reach that? That's the really confusing abbreviation there, Alan. But yeah, does SoundExchange reach that?
Yeah, so that would actually, this is a good case where, I'm assuming that you're probably registered directly with them as well. This would be a good case for you to kind of decide, do you want SoundExchange to collect worldwide, or would you want to just kind of carve out Spain because you might be directly in business with them already? But yes, we do have an agreement with them so that you can collect directly through SoundExchange the royalty from them. So at the end of the day, I would fun. It's funny. But yeah, at the end of the day, I would say that your royalties, if you already have been registered in Spain, then you should probably be fine with that. But SoundExchange does work with them directly, and you can do it all through us.
Okay. Amanda asks, I echo Alan's comment about Spain, but on the Italian side about recordings registered with SIAE.
Yeah, it's again the same
Same answer.
process. Same process. You would actually be able to um, uh, carve out Italy if that's what you'd like to carve out. But we do work with them on a regular basis. And basically, what for anybody that wants to know about the international collections, what happens is that about every 3 to 6 months, and this might be something to note, but every 3 to 6 months, we end up working with them because they have Italian artists that are based here in the States that we work with. And so we help pay them. So we basically look at our accounts together and then we end up swapping the money after a certain amount of time. So it might take 6 months for, Italian royalties or Spanish royalties to come back into the US, but you'll know that you are getting those collected. And so, like I said, many artists don't want to sign up at multiple different organizations or different places that, because if you're having to do it at SoundExchange, you don't want to have to do it at 4 or 5 different other ones.
We've got 11 questions. We've got like 13 minutes. Do you want to try to get through all of them?
Sure.
Okay. So Alan asks, we have released some albums through CD Baby with this package where they collect royalties for us. Does this include SoundExchange? Should I register these directly with SoundExchange also?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So we've released some albums through CD Baby with a package where they collect royalties for us. Does this include SoundExchange, or should I register these with SoundExchange also directly?
Yeah, this goes back to probably the first question where, you can have CD Baby collect your rights owner royalties on your behalf, but they cannot collect your featured artist royalties. So you're still going to have to register with SoundExchange for the featured artist royalties. On the rights owner side, they can do that on your behalf, and it might make it a little bit maybe easier on some ways if you're always going to be with CD Baby. However, if you have the ability to sign up and get directly signed up with SoundExchange, it's really easy to make sure that you're going to collect the rights owner side, and it can save you the 10 to 15% that CD Baby or any distributor would charge for their service. But yes, they can do that on behalf, and it can include SoundExchange. I think on there it will actually have a specific box for you to select if you do want them to collect it on your behalf.
Okay, another question is asking essentially the same thing, but also using DistroKid. I'm guessing that's the same answer there. Dean?
Sorry. I was just gonna say, same process.
Same process.
Same process. It should ask you each one will say, wants to collect from here, you want us to collect from here. But like I said, with SoundExchange specifically, this is something you can do directly, and it can save yourself some of those percentage points. And, it can add up over a long period of time, I'm sure, as you all know.
Okay. Okay, I have 3 questions. Okay, I'm going to try to go through some of these shorter questions really quickly. I'll come back to that one with 3. Who are the opponents to AMFA and how to counteract their power? Donald Cohen asks.
That's a great question. So again, I was just sitting through this the last like 6 to 8 months, and it's essentially the National Broadcasters Association. They are the biggest opponents to this in a lot of ways because they don't want to pay more money for, they don't want to pay more money for anything, right? But which I get it, they're running a business, but at the end of the day, 70% of airtime on radio is music. And the only thing that they're paying for are the songwriters and publishers, and they're saying it's because artists get free publicity in their markets, and they get all these different attributes for it, which we all know that radio has changed in a long way, a lot of ways since for a long time, since social media and since digital streaming and digital music has come out. There's so many other ways to get music. And radio is the only one that don't have to pay for that. Streaming services have to pay. SiriusXM, they have to pay us who pay creators. So, in a lot of ways, it's really artists can't pay rent on exposure, right? And that was actually one of the best parts of having someone like Randy Travis there to be able to be there for all the creators and kind of speak on their behalf was You know, he had a stroke in 2013 and hasn't been able to sing since. So anybody that says he's getting all this exposure for and he can go out and tour is kind of not paying attention to what's actually happening, right? And so but yeah, some of the biggest proponents are really the major conglomerates of radio. Even small stations are totally fine with this because, you know, I think it's if you make $1.5 million or less as a radio station, it's $500 a year. And I'm like, I pay more for that in subscriptions. So it's important for all of us to kind of see this as in a clear mind and a clear head. And it's, and I think at this point, it feels like it's more of a personal property issue that we're starting to see, where, you know, both conservatives and progressives are seeing it as, you know, how can someone else profit from the work that you're building? So I think that's really the question that's starting to come up a lot. And it feels like we do have bipartisan support already. It just needs to be, you know, put to a vote and go from there. But yeah, thank you for that question. That was really helpful.
Okay, I actually like this one. It's three parts. So I'm just going to ask one at a time. For an artist who owns their masters, do you need to do search and claim for each song twice, once for the artist catalog and once for the rights owner catalog?
Yeah, so it would actually be on two separate sides. So you would be able to do it on both sides. Yes. And then also in addition is once you're using the search and claim tool, if you do, you know, have any of that back end metadata information, you could insert that there as well. But yes, you would need to do both.
Will you be paid any royalties retroactively when you register your music, and how far back?
Yeah, that's a great question. So SoundExchange is by law to have to hold royalties for up to 3 years. And once it's over 3 years, it's subject to pool release. Essentially, though, most of the time those royalties get out. I sit on the team that part of our obligations every week are to how much time are we spending on our unregistered clients that, you know, have, you know, a ton of money that's just sitting there and they're just like not aware of it. And you guys would be surprised. I mean, it's, you know, even certain, you know, big artists know about it, but maybe their team doesn't, or vice versa. Or it's you know, a state or an heir of somebody that's passed away that didn't have any exposure to the music business at all. And so, we've really tried to make an effort to get as much of it out as quickly as possible. But to answer the question, it's subject to pool release after 3 years.
When claiming a song that features a second artist, how do you set that up? For example, let's say we have a song in which the performing artist gets 10% royalties to the featured artist. Does the primary artist claim 90% and tell the featured artist to log in and claim 10? Or does the primary artist claim 100 and send SoundExchange a letter of direction to send to the featured artist 10%?
Yeah, so this is getting into the nuances of it, right? I love this. So with that specifically, you can, if it's just like, you know, Marc Rucker featuring Fawn Lies, then yeah, right, that'd be a great song. Then unless we're told any different, meaning SoundExchange told any different, it would be split 50-50, right? But if you would like it to be split a different way, you would just have to let us know what that number is, and they have to have the agreement in place ahead of time, right? So that would be sent in similar to like an LOD. I didn't really talk about LODs, but I'm happy to kind of touch on here for everybody. A letter of direction is what we call an LOD, a letter of direction, is essentially a way for featured artists to provide a royalty or pay a royalty to a producer, an engineer, a musician, or somebody that really was really probably heavily involved in the track, where they can, you know, issue out 5% or 7% or 10% or something like that direct from SoundExchange. And so a couple of things about this. The 5% would be direct from your 45% as a featured artist. So it's not from the 100% pie, it's from the featured artist portion, right? And then on top of that, the letter of direction really is what I would call a free accounting tool for artists, so that all the money doesn't go to you if you're not going to earn it, right? So if you're just basically going to be the middleman where, oh, I have to pay this person 5%, or I have to pay this person 7%, then it doesn't show you making more income than what you're actually making, because you're paying it out. And then also it saves you from that awkward conversation at the end of the year of like, oh, I owe this person like $8,000 and I don't have that money sitting all at once. And so this is basically every time you would get paid from the featured artist portion, that percentage would go out to them directly.
I know that we've only got 5 minutes left. Mark, do you want to go like maybe 5 minutes over so we can get to all these since we started a little late, or do you want to, I see
Yeah.
someone's also raising their hand. Tony, is your question the same that you posted in the Q&A, or do you have a different question? Here, I'm going to allow you to talk for a sec.
Same question. I'm in Canada, so I was just wondering about the royalty connections in Canada. Is it do they do everything in the States, or do I have to be with both?
So yeah, it's again kind of the same thing. You can sign up direct with SoundExchange, and we can do everywhere. But if you already have a relationship with the organization there in Canada, then you can keep that one, and you can just carve out Canada as its own thing, and then SoundExchange can do the rest of the world. Or you can sign up again direct with SoundExchange, and we can just do the US. But like I said, most people end up using our service and seeing it as like a great worldwide service. Like I said, from a tax point of view and all that stuff, I know Canada's a little bit different. So I would just keep that in mind as you're working through that question.
Okay, I hope that answered your question, Tony. Someone asks, how do artists handle tax reporting and what documentation, if any, is provided? i.e., how is the income classified?
So with all of our income, it's like W-9 income because we don't take any taxes out, right? So that's still something that you would have to make sure you're paying attention to throughout the year. But yeah, whenever you submit tax forms, that's what we would ask you for as a W-9. So, and I will say, like a lot of artists end up using, LLCs or corps or anything like that, but you can obviously get paid as an individual if you'd like.
Is someone asks, and I'm not sure, maybe this was asked a while ago about a specific part of your presentation, but is there not already a federal right of publicity?
There are certain states' rights, but in some, I guess in some instances, I would say that no, as far as a federal law. Like even one of the more recent ones is the Elvis Act in Tennessee, talking about the right to basically include name, image, likeness, including voice in that. There currently isn't a federal law for that. It's only in certain states. So those are the things that that's where we really need to keep pushing on, again, our congressional leaders to make sure that they are going from there. But again, we do support that, obviously the copyright laws that are in place, and then any of the protections that we do have. But like I said, as far as like name, image, likeness, voice, there's only a certain in context of AI and that type of thing. There's only certain states that have allowed that so far.
Okay, we've got 4 questions left. For the sake of time, I'm just going to take these last 4 questions. Do we feel like that's fair? Emily Finnell asks, any chance there's a way to not pay 30% back to the US government as a Canadian?
You'd have to talk to a tax attorney about it, but in my years in like artist management, you can definitely and in business management, you can definitely figure out ways as a business owner, because I think a lot of people think of themselves just as an artist, but at the end of the day, you're a business owner, and you can work with what are your expenditures, and what are your different the things that obviously you're making money, but if you're spending money on travel and work and all those things, you can have in the US, you can have a specific amount of write-offs. And I think that's something that I would implore you to check out on your end. But yeah, I would definitely there's an art to it, and I'm sure anybody in this room that's shaking their head like, yeah, there is an art. As a business owner in music, you realize that pretty much anything can be a write-off here in the States. But as far as Canada, I'm not sure any of the tax laws there.
Guillermo Vaz asks, hello, thank you for your presentation. For royalties that belong to rights owners of the phonogram, do we need to do a letter of direction? For instance, I produced an artist and they released 3 singles and an album. I own 50% of the RO share.
Okay, great. So no, letters of direction are only specific to the featured artist side. So what you would do if you own 50% of the rights owner share, then you would sign up as a rights owner and you register as a rights owner, and then you would claim that 50%. And you could do it by specific dates, or if you've owned it in perpetuity or since inception. But yeah, you would actually go in and claim that 50%.
Kamika King, hey Kamika, asks any pros or cons you can speak to regarding opting into SoundExchange International Collection versus a third party or PPL you mentioned, etc.
Yeah, so the main ones that I would say are the ease of use of it, right? You don't have to claim, and you don't have to register and claim in multiple different places, right? That's the first thing. So it'll make your life a lot easier. Also, we are the biggest global rights organization in the world. So we represent we have partnerships with most, if not all, of the partnerships that we can actually get, which is great. So it saves you so much time and so much effort in that. You know, and again, if you did want to do like again a cutoff with like a PPL in the UK, but the SoundExchange in the US and for the world, you can do that based off of what your deal structure looks like and what you feel like is best for you. But I think it saves a lot on the admin side and a lot on the percentage sides, because you're not paying multiple places for the same type of work. You're only paying one place for that, meaning the admin fee.
Okay, final question. I think this is kind of maybe already been answered, but last but not least, the legend Neil Eckstein asks, how do we end an agreement with CD Baby and transfer to SoundExchange? Can I use DistroKid to distribute but not collect royalties for me and assign to SoundExchange?
Yeah, so I think even within CD Baby, you can just tell them you don't want them to collect your SoundExchange royalties anymore. But if you do switch over or anything like that, you can, as we were talking about before, I think it's just a matter of selecting a box of what you do want them to collect on your behalf, right? So, and you can ask them not to collect. You can essentially just not select the box, but you would need to register with SoundExchange to collect it yourself. And so, like I said, if you are a featured artist, and you're releasing music through a distributor like a CD Baby or DistroKid, you would sign up at SoundExchange regardless as a featured artist, but you would also sign up as a rights owner if you don't want them to collect on your behalf, which, like I said, I would argue is the more price effective option if you're willing to do the work. Because again, I don't know what their percentage is, but I'm guessing it can't be lower than 10%. And so whatever you're making minus 10% for the time that it would take for you to register as a rights owner on SoundExchange is, to me, not a worthy trade-off.
I think that's all the questions.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody's candor and time here. It's India. Welcome back.
I was just taking it all in, Mark.
Great,
I mean,
great.
it's amazing to have a relationship with SoundExchange over a decade and still be learning.
Well, that's one of those, the music business is always changing. So, we always have to keep learning. And like I said, anything about advocacy or anything of those things, like it's always changing and always either getting better, or we just need to, step up and do what we can do. So I appreciate the kind words and you guys having me.
I definitely agree with that. I want to take a moment to thank Mark and for this amazing presentation. Just so if you didn't catch this earlier, or if you were late in joining us, we will have this available on our YouTube channel, and it'll be sent out to registrants when available. I'd also like to say thank you to the Full Clients team. Fawn is an amazing Q&A and background tech guru. So thank you to Fawn. Also, thank you to Scott on our team. And most of all, thank you to all of you for participating today. We're really grateful for this community and for the opportunity to get to do webinars year round. We thank SoundExchange for the support for this. And on a final note, just as a reminder, we do year-round online offerings at no cost to our members, and it's thanks to the generosity of our sponsors and our donors. If you'd like to support our work, you can make donations at the link in the chat. We're thankful to all of you. Stay safe and connected, community. We'll be back with you soon in August for our next webinar with the MLC. Have a great day, everyone.